Welcome to CompuScholar's Professional Development webinar for March of 2025. Today we're pleased to announce a brand new integration for Google Classroom. So in this webinar we're going to compare this integration to some of our other deployment models. We'll talk through the main features and give you a video tour of the new system. So as a reminder, we already have three different types of deployment. In our standard or manual model, teachers will create classrooms on their own within the CompuScholar system, and then students will self-register with registration codes. We also have automatic rostering and single sign-on through Clever and ClassLink, and we can integrate our course material into learning management systems like Canvas and Schoology. And so Google Classroom is a fourth type of integration, and that's what we're going to be focused on today. And I will note that most of these options are mutually exclusive. So if you're already doing automatic rostering and single sign-on through Clever or ClassLink, or you've already integrated our course material into Canvas or Schoology, then the Google Classroom integration would be not applicable to your situation. But if you've created some classes in our system through the manual model and you want to integrate those into Google Classroom, then these features will work for you. Our Google Classroom integration is currently in a beta status, so we've released it to teachers in March of 2025. And if you're currently one of those standard deployment teachers that have already created classrooms in our system manually, you should see a link on the teacher menu for Google Classroom. We'll show you that in just a moment. And the beta testing will continue throughout the end of the current school year, so through May, June of 2024 or 2025. During that beta testing period, features in the user interface are subject to change as we get feedback, and we anticipate production release in the fall of 2025. So we would love for you to try out the features now. If you're already a Google Classroom teacher, give it a whirl, send us our feedback, and help us make it work in a way that's satisfactory for you. So there are four main features or advantages you would get with using a Google Classroom integration. And all of these are predicated on you already being a Google Classroom teacher, already having students enrolled in your Google Classroom, and being basically familiar and comfortable in that environment. So the goal of this exercise is to integrate your CompuScholar experience into your existing Google Classroom experience. So the first main feature is automatic rostering. So if you have a roster of students in Google Classroom, we can automatically sync that into your CompuScholar class, so your students will no longer have to create their own accounts using a registration code. We'll also provide single sign-on, so your students will log into Google Classroom with their Google accounts and just click on CompuScholar links to access our system, so they'll never really need to know a CompuScholar username or password. Third, you can publish assignments into Google Classroom. So individual CompuScholar quizzes, tests, or assignments, you can click on a link and push those over into Google Classroom into the Classroom coursework stream so that those are available to your students. And then finally, we'll provide a grade synchronization. So as students accumulate grades in the CompuScholar gradebook, those grades can be synced back over to the Google Classroom gradebook. So those are the four main features that we currently offer through the Google Classroom integration. And we may add more in the future as teachers provide feedback and request specific things. So just as a broad overview of the architecture, Google Classroom by itself is not a full learning management system, as you probably know. So it does have a rudimentary gradebook. It does have a way to post material and content and links and so forth, but it's not really a standalone system by itself in many cases. So the way the deployment works is you will still create classes in CompuScholar system. So you might have multiple periods of different sections on your CompuScholar dashboard, and you will link each CompuScholar class to a corresponding Google Classroom. And then all of those features like automatic rostering and single sign-on and the grade links and publishing and so forth will happen between those two linked courses. So just to reiterate how Google Classroom is a little bit different than some of our other deployment models, the location where the courses are hosted and where student accounts and grades are kept is usually pretty interesting. So in our standard deployment models and in automatic rostering and single sign-on through Clever and ClassLink, all that data, all the courses are kept in CompuScholar system. If you're doing a third-party learning management system integration like Canvas or Schoology, then all of those courses and accounts and grades are kept in those systems and not in CompuScholar's. And as you just saw from the previous diagram, with the Google Classroom integration, the courses are actually in both places. So the master copy, so to speak, is still in CompuScholar system, but there is a matching course over in Google Classroom, and we're syncing the rosters and the grades between those two different sections. Similarly, we can look at how the sections are actually created and how students get enrolled. In our standard deployment model, that happens manually, so teachers will create classroom sections on their dashboard and then provide registration codes to students who will enroll themselves in the CompuScholar class. With automatic rostering and single sign-on, all that's handled automatically based on the rosters given to us through Clever and ClassLink. If you're doing a LMS integration through Canvas or Schoology or something similar, then the actual creation of the sections and the enrollment of students in those sections is something that we don't handle at all. That would be deferred to a district level process or a school or the teacher who is managing all those things within the LMS. With a Google Classroom integration, there's kind of a mixture of processes here. So in CompuScholar's system, the sections will still be created manually by the teacher, but then the students will be enrolled automatically based on the Google Classroom rosters. And those students will get into Google Classroom through whatever district level process you already define. So again, we are targeting teachers and schools and districts that are already using Google Classroom, that already have sections set up in Google Classroom, already have a process for enrolling their students in Google Classroom, and we just want to integrate CompuScholar course material and sections into that experience. In terms of student access, if you're using our standard deployment model, then they would log directly into our main login page with their self-selected CompuScholar username and password. With the Clever and ClassLink integration, that's single sign-on, so students would log into the district's Clever or ClassLink dashboard first and then click their way into CompuScholar system through single sign-on. If you're doing Canvas or Schoology, then students would log directly into that learning management system. They wouldn't have a CompuScholar account at all. And for Google Classroom, again, we're doing roster sync. So students would first log into Google Classroom with their Google accounts, and they would just click on CompuScholar links within their Google Classroom course for single sign-on access to CompuScholar. And we'll show you all that here in just a moment. And lastly, we do just want to compare the location of the gradebook. So if you're doing the standard deployment or automatic rostering, then CompuScholar gradebook has the master copy of the grades, so to speak. If you're in Canvas or Schoology or a similar third-party integration, then that learning management system has its own gradebook, and we don't keep grades in our system at all. And then in Google Classroom, the grades will start off in CompuScholar's gradebook because they are earned in our system as students take our quizzes and tests and complete the activities and so forth. But then we'll sync those grades over to the Google Classroom gradebook. So the grades will be kept in both places with this integration. Now, whenever you start using Google accounts, Google is pretty serious about your privacy and understanding how your data is used. So we've just updated our privacy policy to describe how we're going to use the Google account data. And it's really very simple. We're simply using the student names and their unique Google account IDs to do that automatic rostering and to set up their CompuScholar accounts. And that's really about it. So we're never going to get any sensitive information or share that information anywhere else. So as you're probably familiar, whenever you use a Google account and you start engaging with third-party services like CompuScholar, you are often prompted for permissions when you first connect to that third-party application, and CompuScholar is no different. So students and teachers, when they're first interacting with the system through their Google account, they must approve specific permissions, and there'll be a pop-up box that we'll show you here as we do the live demo. And students and teachers will be prompted to approve all of these permissions, so they're all required. Again, none of them are sensitive. They're very basic things just used to get information about the account so we can do the rostering, and then whatever minimal permissions we need on the teacher side to help us sync the grades back and forth and publish links into the classrooms, get the student rosters and so forth. Okay, we're going to switch over and I'll show you a demo of the new features. We'll start off from the teacher perspective and explore how to link a course and sync the rosters and publish assignments and sync grades and so forth. And then we'll show you the same thing from the student perspective where a student can log in and then access the CompuScholar system. Okay, we're going to start off in a CompuScholar account with a demo teacher account. And this demonstration teacher has already created one CompuScholar section on our dashboard. So let's go ahead and click into the section. And all of the Google Classroom magic is going to happen here under this new Google Classroom link on your teacher's menu. So again, if you're doing automatic rostering and single sign-on with Clever or ClassLink, or you're in another LMS entirely, then you won't see this particular link. But if you're in a deployment model that's suitable for Google Classroom integration, then you'll see this link. So let's go ahead and click on it. And here at the very beginning of the process, we don't know anything about your Google account or your Google Classroom. So the first step is to connect to Google Classroom. And we'll go through a few standard prompts. You may be asked to select a Google account if you have multiple accounts, but just click on Continue. And when you're prompted for those magic permissions, just make sure you select all of them. There'll be a list normally of 5 or 6 here. This particular account already has access or approval to some of them. And then we'll click continue. All right, so we've established a basic connection between your CompuScholar teacher account and your Google account. And what we're showing you next is a list of sections that you have in Google Classroom. And we're asking you which section in Google Classroom do you want to link this to this particular CompuScholar course. So we're going to select this Python period 3 section and click connect. And we've successfully connected to Google Classroom. And now we've got a few options. The first thing we can do is we can sync the roster, and this will bring all of your students from Google Classroom over into the CompuScholar system. You can also disconnect this classroom if you want to, so if you want to start over and do something different, you can just click the red button here. And then there's some options for syncing the grades down below. So let's start off and sync the rosters. Now at this point, let me go take a peek at the CompuScholar gradebook. And there are no students in this CompuScholar class right now, so this is a freshly created CompuScholar class. We'll go back to Google Classroom and we'll click Sync Roster. And when we click that Sync Roster button for the first time and there are no students previously in our CompuScholar class, what will happen is the Google Classroom roster is automatically synced over to CompuScholar. So every student that we had in our Google Classroom is now present and created in the CompuScholar class. You can see we created a couple of demo students here. Let's click Done. And if we go look at the gradebook, those students are now enrolled as CompuScholar students. Let's go back to Google Classroom. Now, once you already have students in your CompuScholar class, the sync roster will behave a little bit differently. What we're going to do is verify matches. So we'll go take a look at your Google Classroom roster, we'll take a look at your CompuScholar roster, and make sure everybody is linked up. Let's go look at our Google Classroom section for just a moment. And right now we have just the 2 original students, and I'm going to add a 3rd student. Okay, off to the side I've added another student, so student demo 2 is now a new student. And let's go back to our CompuScholar class, and we'll sync roster again. Now you can see we still match the original 2 students, and we're letting you know, hey, there's a new student in the Google Classroom, and we couldn't figure out how to link that to any existing CompuScholar student. And so your option essentially is to create a new student. Now it is possible that you have some sort of CompuScholar student already in your class. So let's say you have an existing CompuScholar class, you've already enrolled some CompuScholar students, and now you want to take advantage of this great new Google Classroom feature and start linking existing CompuScholar students to unattached Google students. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, off to the side I've waved my magic wand and added a new student to this class. Let's take a look at the gradebook, and you can see we now have serious student here as a 3rd student. So if we go back to Google Classroom and sync the roster again, now we've got some additional options. So remember, we still have a student in Google Classroom that is not attached to any CompuScholar student, and so this student is now listed. If these are actually the same student, then you can simply link the accounts like this. But if these are 2 different students, then you can create a new CompuScholar student to match your Google Classroom student. Now notice we also list the new serious student here as an unmatched CompuScholar student. So students in this category have no matching Google Classroom student, and you may want to suspend these CompuScholar students from the class. So this is an option, it's certainly not required. This allows you to keep unattached CompuScholar students in your course if you want to, or if you want to keep things neat and tidy and make sure every student is matched with a Google Classroom student, then you can suspend the student from the class. So I'm just going to assume these 2 students are the same person, so I'll link the accounts. And that was successful, and now you can see all of our students are successfully matched again. So we have 3 students in Google Classroom, and we have 3 students over in the CompuScholar section. So anytime a student is added or removed from your Google Classroom, just be sure to click on the Sync Roster button here, and that will let you manage the corresponding CompuScholar students. All right, let's go back and look at our Google Classroom section for a moment. There's a handy link right here at the top of the page. And in this CompuScholar class, let's click on Classwork. And you can see we've automatically added a couple of topics here. The first topic has the name of the CompuScholar course, and it's a link to the course materials. So your students can come in here on a regular basis and click on this link, and they'll be taken to the main table of contents for the course that you've linked. And so this is how students will single click their way into CompuScholar system on a regular basis. You'll also see a topic for coursework, and this is currently empty. So teachers can publish CompuScholar links like quizzes, tests, or assignments, and those will show up here under CompuScholar coursework. So let me show you how that works. Once you've connected a class to Google Classroom, you can go back to the main table of contents. We'll scroll down and go into Chapter 1, and you'll see we now have some links here on the side that will let you connect to Google Classroom. Now remember that quizzes and tests are normally hidden by default, so if you want students to access them first, you will naturally show that quiz, and then you can click on the link to publish that to Google Classroom. Okay, great. It will turn green, and so now this quiz is both visible and it's linked into Google Classroom. We come back over here to Google Classroom and we'll refresh the coursework. And you can see the Chapter 1 Lesson 1 quiz has been published under the coursework topic. So this is how you can poke assignments and quizzes and so forth into Google Classroom on whatever schedule you like so that your students can access them. So let's explore how this is going to look from a student perspective. I've just switched over to the Student Demo 2 account. This is one of the accounts that we synced into our CompuScholar roster. And let's take a look at the classwork. You can see the course materials link here, so students can click here and click on the CompuScholar link. Now again, students are going to go through the same authorization process that the teachers do, and they'll select their Google account and click on Continue. Make sure to approve all the services and scopes that are requested. There are 2 services. This particular account has already approved them, but be sure that students will check all these boxes and click Continue. And now we're in. And so as a student, you can always come back to Google Classroom and click on the link again. And as long as you've logged in once, it should be a pretty straightforward process. If you've logged out of CompuScholar for a long period of time, it may re-prompt you to verify your Google account. So that's how Google handles the authorizations. And of course, students can come down here and click directly on one of the assignments that you've published. So let's click on the Chapter 1 Lesson 1 quiz. And that will take students into our system. They can attempt the quiz directly. And I'm just going to Christmas tree this real quick to get a grade. Finish the attempt. All right, so now as a student, I now have a grade in the CompuScholar gradebook. Let's log out of this account and go back in as the teacher. So I'm back here in the teacher account. We can take a peek at the gradebook. We can see the grade that the student just accumulated. I did pretty good for Christmas treeing that particular assessment. We can go into Google Classroom, and now the syncing of grades becomes meaningful. The first time you're going to click Sync All Grades. And I deliberately wanted to show you a couple of important error messages that you may see. So if your students have not logged in yet, or they have not approved the appropriate permissions for CompuScholar, then we're not going to be able to sync their grades. So the Student Demo account and the Student Demo 3 account, these 2 accounts simply have not logged in yet. So they have not approved the permissions between Google and CompuScholar, and so we're not able to submit those grades. And so the remedial action here is to make sure the student has logged in and approved all those required permissions. However, the 3rd student did approve the permissions when we logged in and took the quiz, so you can see that synchronization is successful. Let's go back to the classroom as the teacher. We can click on Grades. And you can see that grade has now showed up for the student account. so the synchronization of the grades works pretty well. I will mention that once you're able to sync all grades successfully without any errors, then a second button will appear that will allow you to sync just the recent grades. So you'll eventually have two options, either sync all the grades or sync just the recent grades since the last sync operation. And I'll also point out that we will automatically sync grades overnight. So you don't have to keep coming in here manually and syncing the grades if you don't want to. You can simply wait for that nightly sync to kick in, and all the grades that have accumulated overnight or since the previous sync will be pushed up to Google Classroom at that time. So just to summarize the process, when you go into the Google Classroom page here on the CompuScholar system, you will first link to a course. You'll make sure to approve all the right permissions for your teacher account. You'll sync the roster. You'll then go into your CompuScholar chapters and you'll click on the icons to publish individual quizzes, tests, and assignments that you want to for the students. If you want to unpublish those later, you can click on that link again to unpublish them. And you'll sync the grades either manually or you'll wait for the overnight sync. And that's really all there is to it. So we're really excited about this new integration. We hope you are too. We anticipate teachers will have lots of requests for additional features that we can add going forward, and so we look forward to getting that type of feedback. Thank you so much for watching, and don't hesitate to reach out to us by phone or through our website with questions.